Hi, this is Jonathan Patrizio, and we are here at Voice Summit in New Jersey. And today we have with us Jonathan Patrizio. You are with Mobiquity. So first of all, welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about what do you do at the company?
Thank you so much, Swapnil. I'm very excited to be here. This is my first trip to Voice Summit, so it's always exciting to see a whole load of new faces in a new venue for me. So my name is Jonathan Patrizio and I work at Mobiquity. We're a digital consultancy and we build human-centered digital custom software. And my role is actually a longer title. It's kind of Principal Solutions Architect. But really what that means is I talk to a lot of brands, I hear what they're trying to solve in terms of business problems, and then we try and marry that with technology. And one of the areas that we're doing more and more work in, and it's increasingly interesting for us, is conversational AI. And so you say voice and chatbots, they all fit into this umbrella term of conversational AI.
When you say provide resources, are you talking about technical resources or human resources? I just want to understand a bit more about Mobiquity,
Oh, I see, yes. Well, so we completely, we're a consulting company, and so we ourselves will build custom software and we'll talk to brands that know much more about what they're trying to solve. We never assume to be the people that know their business better than we do. So in terms of sources of information, we always look to those brands to tell us exactly all about, for example, their problem space. We might be working in, say, the healthcare environment. We're not experts on a particular disease, but we'll rely on them to be sources of information that tell us exactly what their patients are suffering, what kind of problems those patients have, what their care team and their families are going through. And from that, a person like me would go into potentially a workshop and ask them questions, really focus on what are they trying to solve, and then we'll come up with a technology solution that usually involves building that custom software to solve that problem. And we'll do it, and you may have said resources as well. Our resources we have internally in Mobiquity, we have conversational designers, we have developers, we have Q&A people, we have a team of architecture, and also, I think most importantly, we have user experience designers. And with those blend of talents, we can create new experiences to better engage customers or patients or employees.
You gave an example of healthcare, Do you just work with certain industries or you just work with anybody?
We actually have been around since 2011. Our DNA is building mobile apps, hence the name Mobiquity. So we really began work and our life riding that wave of new mobile phones. And we built, a lot of native iOS and Android applications. One of the interesting things about working for that length of time is that we've seen, customers across many different verticals. So, it might be sometimes we've worked with, for example, Wawa, which is an East Coast chain of gas stations, and they also have fast food and serve food on demand. And we've helped them build an order app on mobile. But equally, we've also worked in the healthcare environment where, for example, you have a piece of technology that's an ingestible pill. And so you asked about the different sectors. We've actually worked across, I would say, pretty much every sector, but in the realm of creating custom software that allows people to engage and interact with software.
So it's not it's not stock software. You work with companies to create something which is customized to their needs.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And it's actually something that I think a lot of big companies struggle with because they may not have the depth of engineering talent to build something on their own. We are able to pull together quickly a team of people that can build something which is purely customized for their needs. And so that can be really valuable, I think, to big brands who want to be focused on a particular competency which isn't building custom software.
You gave some example, but can you talk about what are the projects you're working on currently?
Yeah. Well, so in the realm, since we're here at Voice Summit, I feel I should probably talk about some of the conversational AI. We've worked with, let's start with, say, for example, insurance and the financial services industry. And we're finding that they are actually being able to allow service to those people 24/7 with conversational assistants. And that might be in smart assistants, using smart speakers, or it might be with chatbots as well. And what they're finding is that people don't necessarily want to pull out or go online anymore or pull out a specific mobile app. They want to just have a natural conversation. They want to be able to say what they want. If there's a smart enough chatbot in the back end or a smart assistant that can field a particular question and get an answer quickly, then that's a win. If there's also a detection of frustration, or if there's a question that potentially isn't easily answered, to quickly make sure that that person is being routed to the person that can answer that question quickly is golden. And that cuts across insurance, so big insurance brands, also in healthcare. If you're, for example, somebody who needs a certain advice, I think what's going to be interesting is moving to that realm where voice assistants and chatbots can actually also be authorized to give some of that advice, as long as you maybe don't take it as the sole advice. Maybe you still have your doctor, but day to day, maybe it's late at night and you wake up with a certain feeling or a certain symptom, and you want to talk to somebody, and that's where I think conversational AI is really going to come into it for.
When you look at businesses today and you look at conversational AI or just voice-driven interaction, is it something which is like an add-on for companies, or it is something which will become critical to their businesses because more and more people will use this mode? Because I mean, not everybody uses laptops these days, right? And not all the time you want to reach out to sometimes you have to type, So what role is voice going to play? The businesses you mentioned, can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think definitely the latter. I think that if brands don't have especially if they're well-known brands, if they don't have a voice strategy at this point, if they are trying to, certainly I think that there's definitely a place for building something and learning together, trying to build a voice application, maybe an Alexa skill or a Google Assistant skill, and trying something. But we always try to empower our clients to sort of take a step back, think about how does it fit within their digital strategy, their omni-channel strategy. How do they currently engage with their customers? We've actually found that some of the CPG companies, they actually don't even really have any relationship with their customers at all, because they sell their product through big resellers. And so they have no direct from brands to consumer relationship at all. And I think conversational AI, smart assistants and chatbots are actually giving them, for the first time, an immediacy of relationship with the customer that has actually never been seen before. So as a brand, you could, for example, ignore that and decide that you don't need it. But I think you might be foolish, because I think your competitors will. And if they do it better than you do it, then you'll miss out. And eventually, they will have better relationships with their customers than you do.
If you recall the whole discussion at one point where people are talking about, hey, you have to go through digital transformation, otherwise you're missing out. All the legacy company, you have to come to the digital world. You're missing out on competition and everything. So it's the same thing is going to happen with the voice. It's not about just an add-on feature.
Right.
To remain competitive, you have to because people will be sitting in the Tesla cars.
Yeah.
And they don't have to pull out. So
I think that's really savvy that you should ask that question, because if you think of it as just an add-on, one of the problems with lots of skills right now is that they're siloed. So they only create a voice experience, but actually, I think a really effective user journey. I mean, if you think about your daily life, you get up in the morning, yes, you might ask Alexa to, turn on the coffee pot, or you might, for example, go down and sit at breakfast and be on your mobile. But you're actually going to be on many different sort of media. At work, you're going to be on your laptop. Maybe when you're driving, that's where voice might come to play. So to create something just like on its own, addressing one piece and thinking that's going to solve everyone's problem is, I think, a really short-sighted, way to think about it. You've got to think about these initiatives in conjunction with all of the other ways that people interact with you. And it's not just about checking a box, it's about really creating a compelling experience where a person has a place where they'll interact with you using voice, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that will become the only place that they should interact with you. They'll still probably be used mobile, but it'll be in different places at different times.
Coming back to the point of conversational AI,
Yeah.
because it depends on who I'm talking to. Sometimes the tone,
Yeah.
the words used,
Very important.
and the voice itself, whose voice you're hearing,
Yeah.
like whether you're hearing Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator,
Yeah.
very rigid voice like computer,
Yeah.
or something which is more empathetic. So
Yeah.
can you talk about the evolution of the whole interaction, and
Yeah.
where do you see this moving in the next 1 or 2? We cannot talk about 5 years, no.
Right,
We
yeah.
can talk about
And
6
5 years
months.
is a long time,
Long
right?
time.
Long
It's like
time. Many things I think are beginning to happen, but it's getting to that point of maturity where enough people are understanding the problem that I think we're going to see a significant acceleration in how this evolves in the next few years. I think it's very interesting right now when you think about talking to Alexa or to Google. People think of them as talking to an assistant that's a woman. What I'm beginning to see is that brands are really thinking hard about what exactly is my brand voice. Companies had to think about it some time back when they were creating ads on TV or when they were creating, like radio commercials. They would think about, well, what voice should we use, what character? But I think even more so, as we evolve through this sort of voice revolution and people get more used to having conversations with you as a brand, brands are going to have to really think carefully and evolve their sophistication in their tone, their voice, the music, everything about it, which is in some way bringing back this really cool golden age of radio. It's going to come back in terms of skill sets. I think the other thing is that machine learning is, I think, going to be an important component, not only of the natural language understanding piece, but also of the services that run in the back end. And what I mean by that is that, so Neil, say I came back tomorrow and had a conversation with you. The information that we would exchange tomorrow would be, a lot of it would be based on our experience today. And I would remember tomorrow what we talked about today, hopefully. I think also, if you look at a lot of skills today, a lot of assistants and voice applications, there isn't a huge amount of context that gets remembered about this current conversation that maybe applies to the next one. I mean, sure, there's some, but that retention of context, of who I am, of where I am, and of exactly what we've been talking about, and carrying that forward in terms of context and state, and having that really great conversation. I think another really good example is, say you're trying to sell me something. You're probably not going to say, hey, Jonathan, do you want to buy these tickets right now? I would probably first be more likely to buy those tickets from you if we've had a bit of more of a conversation. And so I think that we're going to evolve in our design, our conversational design. And I also think that there's a long way to go for some businesses in terms of security, and especially in healthcare, there's going to be, I think, a fair number of advances that need to happen on the platforms to ensure that those conversations are well governed and that any information exchanged is really well guarded, governed.
Yeah, because I think the more and more you start entering like healthcare industry or financial, HIPAA and all those things will start coming into picture. Yes.
Right, and we're beginning to see the start of that. Alexa announced 6 brands that they're working with in the sort of healthcare domain that do involve HIPAA, which is PHI information. I think it's going to roll out maybe more slowly than we might think, just because we have to be ever so careful not for it to blow up. I mean, you don't want a story on the headline that says somebody's personal health information was discovered by somebody because somebody built a skill that didn't work well, or a Google Assistant. So I think that has to be done relatively thoughtfully.
Right.
But
it won't be
it will
someone.
happen.
It will be like 1 million people or 2 million people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I also think that there's a lot of use cases in healthcare and regulated industries that can still do things usefully in conversational AI that ends up being useful that doesn't necessarily involve identifiable information.
Right. So Jonathan,
Yeah.
it was nice talking to you today. But before we wrap this up, any closing thoughts that you have? Because you are here at the summit, you
Yeah.
have met a lot of people. Anything you'd like to say
Yeah,
before we
well,
wrap up?
my pleasure to be, asked to be, talking with you today, Swamil. It's been really fun. I'm glad the weather cleared up today and the storm passed. It does feel like now people are really getting into the zone. This is only really day 3, maybe day 2 of the Voice Summit conference. I've learned an awful lot here. We've met some really interesting people, ranging from brands who are still trying to figure out what is the right way to do it, to voice artists. And I think with all of this, it just really still shows me, how much excitement and enthusiasm and interest there is. I would say to anyone listening to this that if you're still kind of scratching your head, we're definitely here to help. I mean, please look us up. We're mobiquityinc.com/Alexa, or just, please, there's a contact us form. We're happy to kind of help either with the strategy to figure out what is the best thing to do, ranging from build, test, and support. So we kind of do that across the gamut, not just voice and conversational AI, but also, native mobile applications as well as online experience as well. So I'd say really thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you again just to keep an eye on what's going on. Thank you.
Great, thank you.